The hospital room was filled with the soft hum of machines, their steady beeping the only sign of life. Through the half-drawn curtains, the golden light of the afternoon sun filtered in, casting gentle beams that danced across the sterile floor. The room felt too bright, almost as if the light was trying to erase the shadow that had settled over everything. The scent of fresh flowers lingered in the air, bouquets sent by friends, family, and colleagues, but they didn't mask the heaviness in the atmosphere, the presence of death that hovered just beyond the walls. Claire lay in her bed, her breathing shallow, her face pale, but at peace. She looked peaceful, almost as if she were sleeping. But Michael knew better. He had been holding her hand for hours, never once leaving her side. His fingers gently curled around hers, his thumb tracing slow, rhythmic circles on the back of her hand. His face was drawn with exhaustion, but there was no complaint in his expression, only devotion, quiet and constant. His eyes were fixed on Claire, his gaze unwavering. He didn't look at the family gathered around her bed, nor did he react when her brother cleared his throat awkwardly near the door or when her mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, refusing to look his way. He stayed, simply staying with her, whispering soft words of love into the stillness of the room. Michael's presence there was almost a betrayal to Claire's family. He had never been part of their lives, not really. Claire had kept him hidden, tucked away from the world that would never accept him, never accept their love. The world had made it clear that a man like Michael didn't belong in their family, and Claire had done what she could to protect him. For years he had been invisible to her family, nothing more than a shadow in the background of Claire's life. But now, in her final moments, the truth was there for all to see. Michael had always been there, always quietly present, even when Claire's family refused to acknowledge him. Her mother, Eleanor, sat at the foot of the bed, her posture straight and perfect, as it always was. She wore pearls, her bun meticulously styled, not a single hair out of place. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp, cutting through the room with a judgment that no one dared to challenge. She didn't glance at Michael. She didn't need to. She knew who he was, but she couldn't bring herself to look at him now. The only time she showed emotion was when her gaze flicked to Claire's wedding ring, which gleamed softly in the sunlight. She frowned when she saw it, her lips pressing into a thin line. Michael saw the reaction, but he didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Eleanor had never accepted Michael, never understood why Claire had chosen him. Michael had learned long ago that his love didn't need to be accepted. He had accepted their judgment with quiet grace, letting Claire's family be who they were, even if they would never truly know him. Even in this final moment, when everything should have been different, they still couldn't see him. Her father, standing by the window, was just as distant. His arms were crossed over his chest, his back to the room, eyes watching the cars passing by in the parking lot. The motion of the cars outside seemed to take him further away from the reality in the room. He wasn't here. Not really. He was absent, as he always had been. Michael had never expected him to understand. He had never expected any of them to understand. But there was Claire, lying in her bed, her hand in his, and that was all that mattered. A nurse entered the room and checked Claire's IV. She smiled softly at Michael, a quiet acknowledgement of his presence. "Mr. Ellis," she said kindly, "let us know if you need anything." Michael caught the look from Eleanor, the sharpness in her eyes as she repeated the name under her breath. "Ellis," she murmured. The way she said it like it was something distasteful made Michael's chest tighten. But he didn't flinch. He didn't react. He had learned long ago that nothing he did would change their perception of him. They could never see him the way Claire did. He could feel the weight of their disapproval in every glance they threw his way. But he didn't care. He hadn't taken off his wedding ring since the day they exchanged vows 7 years ago, and he wasn't about to start now. Claire had worn hers too, though most people never noticed it. Today, however, the light caught it just right, and Eleanor's gaze fell on the ring. Her lips tightened, and her fingers gripped her purse a little harder. But Michael didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He had learned to live with their rejection, with their silence. He had always known that their love, his love, wasn't something they could understand. And that was fine. What mattered was that Claire understood. Claire had chosen him, and no one could take that away. He leaned closer to her, pressing his forehead gently to hers. "You didn't need their permission," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "And you never asked for it." The heart monitor continued to beep steadily, but something in the room shifted. A subtle tension thickened the air. Claire's cousin cleared her throat. Someone checked their watch. It was as if the room was waiting for something to happen, for someone to speak. But Michael didn't care. He didn't look at the others in the room. He didn't care what they thought, because no matter how many people sat there, none of them knew the way Claire smiled in the morning. None of them had held her through the darkest moments of her diagnosis. None of them had been the one she leaned on when the world seemed too heavy. None of them had shared the quiet moments with her that had meant everything. Michael was the only one who knew her like that. He was the only one who had truly seen her, and that was all that mattered. The room fell silent, and the tension seemed to hang in the air. The beeping of the heart monitor filled the stillness, a reminder that time was slipping away. But Michael didn't look at the clock. He didn't care how much time had passed. He had all the time he needed with Claire, even if it was just in this moment. He didn't need anyone else to understand. He didn't need anyone else to validate his love. All he needed was Claire. And she was with him now, just as she always had been. Michael sat quietly by Claire's bedside, the sound of the machines the only soundtrack to the memories that flooded his mind. He looked at the worn leather bag tucked beneath her bed, a corner of a photo frame visible through the glass. He knew what it was before he even reached for it. He gently pulled the frame out, brushing his thumb over the glass. The photo was faded, but it was a moment frozen in time. Claire, sun-kissed and laughing, her head resting on his shoulder, waves crashing behind them. It was from their anniversary trip to Myrtle Beach, the only place where Claire didn't have to hide. For years they had lived in secret, their love concealed from the world. But not here, not now. Claire had chosen to be with him, and that was enough. He remembered the day they had gotten married. It wasn't in a grand hall, and there were no family members gathered around them. It was just the two of them, standing hand in hand in a quiet courthouse, exchanging vows in the simplest, most beautiful ceremony. There had been no photos posted online, no announcements sent out. Claire had said she didn't want to deal with the noise, but Michael knew better. He knew that she had kept him hidden, not out of shame, but because she wanted to protect him. On holidays, when Claire went to her family's house, Michael stayed behind. He made her favorite soup for when she came home. And when she returned, she came home with smudged makeup, her eyes red from the strain. She would tell him it wasn't the right time, and Michael would kiss her forehead and hold her anyway. He had accepted it, not out of weakness, but because he loved her. In the hospital room, murmurs drifted around him like static. Claire's aunt leaned toward her cousin and whispered, "Poor thing. I guess he's just a close friend." Michael heard it, of course. He always heard it. But he didn't correct them. He didn't need to. His love for Claire didn't need their approval. His grief didn't need their permission. It still hurt, though. He reached down and gently pulled the photo frame from her bag, brushing his thumb over the glass. Her smile in that photo was wide and free, the version of Claire that no one in this room had ever seen. That version of her had lived in secret. And now, Michael was the only one who truly knew her. Emily took a deep breath and continued to read aloud, her voice shaking with emotion. I never wanted to hurt you, but I knew that this love, my love for Michael, would be something you could never understand. You always thought I was ashamed of him, that I was hiding him because of what he looked like, who he was. But that was never the reason. The room fell completely silent as Emily's words hung in the air, the weight of Claire's final message pressing down on everyone. Margaret sat still, her eyes wide with disbelief, her lips trembling as if she couldn't process the truth her daughter had left behind. I kept him hidden from you, Claire's voice continued through Emily's words. Not out of shame, but out of love for him. I didn't want to see him hurt, didn't want to see the way you would look at him. I wanted to protect him from your judgment, your coldness, your silent disapproval. You never saw him as I did. You never saw the way he loved me, the way he steadied me when I was afraid, how he listened to me without ever judging, the way he made me feel safe in a world that constantly told us we were wrong. I couldn't let that world hurt him anymore, so I kept him away. I kept him hidden. Claire's mother, Margaret, looked down at the floor, her fingers clutching the arms of the couch, her knuckles turning white. She didn't speak. The words hurt, even though she hadn't wanted to hear them. Claire had said them to protect him, to protect their love. But in doing so, she had left her family behind. Margaret had never understood why Claire had chosen to keep her relationship with Michael a secret. She had believed it was out of shame, but now she realized how wrong she had been. Emily paused for a moment, her voice faltering. She knew her mother wasn't ready for this, but she continued to read the words that Claire had left behind, words that no one had ever expected to hear. You never knew Michael. Not really, Claire's letter continued. But I did. I knew him better than anyone. He was my family, my only real family. He was the one who stood by me through everything. And in the end, when I was at my weakest, he was the one who held me. He gave me the strength I needed to face the hardest part of my life. When I said goodbye, it was him I wanted beside me. Margaret's eyes were wet with unshed tears, but she refused to let them fall. Her lips pressed tighter, as if trying to hold in the emotions that were threatening to break free. Her hand clenched around the fabric of her purse, the muscles in her jaw tightening with each word Emily read. She couldn't believe it. Couldn't understand why her daughter had kept Michael from them, why she had kept him hidden for so long. And now, the letter went on, you may think that Michael wasn't part of my life, that he wasn't my family. But he was. He was the one person who understood me. He never asked for anything from you, never needed your approval. And in the end, when everything was falling apart, he was the one who stayed, not you. So please, let go of your pride. Let go of your judgment. It's too late for me, but it's not too late for you. Let go of your pride and let love in. Love him the way I always did. Love him the way he loved me. Emily paused again, the tears in her eyes blurring her vision. She wiped them away, her heart breaking for the mother who had lost her daughter and for the father who had never truly known his daughter's love. I wish I could have said this to you, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. But she never had the courage. She did this because she loved him, because she wanted to protect him. She didn't want you to hurt him. She didn't want you to judge him the way you've always judged him. Margaret's face crumpled. She couldn't hold back the tears anymore. The truth had been laid bare in Claire's letter, and there was no denying it. Michael had been her daughter's true love, and Margaret had failed to see it. She had failed to understand the depth of their bond, the strength of their love. All the years spent looking down on Michael, all the years of rejection, had meant nothing in the end. Claire had loved him, and that was all that mattered. Emily folded the letter carefully and placed it back on the table. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her father sat silently, his eyes filled with grief and regret. He reached for his glasses, his hands trembling as he wiped them clean, though they were already spotless. His heart was heavy with the realization that he had never truly known his daughter. She had kept so much from him, but now, through her words, he could finally see the truth. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, the sound of the branches whispering to each other as if sharing the secrets of the past. In the distance, the clock in the hallway chimed once, soft and distant, like the passing of time, reminding everyone that things had changed. Claire was gone, and with her, so were the chances of reconciling the years of hurt and misunderstanding. Upstairs, in the quiet of Claire's bedroom, a small blue journal sat beside an old photo album, its pages worn with time. The journal was open, but it would never be read by Claire again. It would remain there, a testament to a love that had been hidden away for too long, a love that had been silenced by the weight of judgment and pride. But in the end, Claire had chosen to leave her family with the truth, and that was all that mattered. Meanwhile, Michael sat alone in their tiny apartment, surrounded by the quiet remnants of the life he had shared with Claire. The smell of her favorite lotion still lingered on a scarf she used to wear, a soft, comforting scent that brought memories flooding back. He didn't know about the letter. He didn't know that Claire's family had read it, that they had finally understood the depth of her love for him. But he didn't need to. He had already lived it. He had already known the truth, and now it was all that mattered. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light over the cemetery where Claire's grave rested. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, their branches whispering like voices from the past. Michael walked slowly down the gravel path, a bouquet of white lilies cradled in his hand. He didn't rush. He never did when it came to her. He had all the time in the world now. Claire's headstone stood beneath an old elm tree, simple and elegant. It didn't have elaborate carvings or poetic epitaphs, just her name, the years of her life, and a simple line beneath them. Loved deeply, always remembered. Michael knelt beside the grave, brushing away a few fallen leaves. He laid the flowers gently at the base of the stone, taking a moment to remember everything Claire had been. The laughter, the love, the quiet moments they had shared. The way she had smiled, the way she had loved him in silence for so many years. He pulled out a small photo from his pocket, a picture of the two of them together at the beach. It was one of the few photos they had taken, one she had insisted on printing. He placed the photo beside the flowers, weighed down by a smooth stone. The wind picked up slightly, tugging at his coat, and Michael stood up slowly. The sun had fully broken through the trees now, casting light over Claire's grave as if offering a blessing. He gave a small nod, as if acknowledging someone standing beside him, then turned and walked back down the gravel path. His steps were slow, steady, and echoing quietly against the stones. He wasn't just walking away. He was leaving with peace, leaving with the knowledge that he had loved Claire the best he could. He had never needed an audience. His love didn't need validation. It just needed truth. Sometimes, love doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need permission. It just needs truth. And when the world closes its eyes, love still shows up. It doesn't wait for the world's approval. It just is. Claire's grave rests quietly beneath the canopy of summer leaves, the wind brushing past her headstone like a whispered memory. The photo of Claire and Michael, faded at the edges but vibrant in the center, remains beside it, a testament to their love. The trees rustle in the breeze, their leaves whispering as if telling the world a story of love, patience, and grace that no one could take away.